All right, welcome back to Book Nook Brews. Today we have the final episode of Circe by Madeline Miller. We'll be covering chapters 22 through 27.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be doing our final brews review of the book at the end. But before we do that, the brew we have for today both have the same thing. We're just chilling now, so we'll just have 2 Corona extras with lime and salt.
Yummy.
Mm.
I feel like it's such a summer drink.
Yeah.
And we're getting closer to that time, if not already. So it has some nice little beer.
Yeah, I feel like out of the beers, it's probably that, and then just cocktails, you know?
True.
But me personally, I'll do a Guinness any time of the year. To me, Guinness is that, and then Corona specifically summer, but I will also drink it year-round.
True. I feel like lately you've been on a kick with it. Again. Like, you've not rediscovered it, but, like, picked it up again.
So it was like Corona was my absolute favorite. And then I discovered Guinness. And then that was, like, the only thing. And then I would have Corona here and there. But then I went a while without drinking a light beer. It was just dark. And then I think you were the one that mentioned that. It's like, why don't you have light ones and dark ones in the fridge?
Yeah.
Like, why don't, instead of doing one or the other in the fridge, why don't you just have them like both? Because sometimes you maybe don't want a dark one or whatever. And I was like, all right. So I stocked up on some Coronas, and that first Corona back, I was like, yeah.
That hits.
That one, yeah, we have to have both. So, yeah, Corona and Guinness are the top 2 for me.
My absolute favorite one is still the mango one from St. Pete. That one will forever be my favorite.
From the St. Pete Brewery.
Yeah, it was delicious.
What did they call it? Mango?
It's a pun.
Mango Man or...
Mango Man?
No, something. It was like a play on Florida Man. No, Florida Mango, something
possibly,
something like that.
It was like a play on mango, but it was that was so delicious. But other than that, I really like Blue Moon, and then unfortunately, I really like Kilkenny, and it's unfortunate because we're not gonna find that here. You can only find that at like Disney Springs on Raglan Road, but not, we have yet to see it at an Irish pub, like outside of Disney Springs, I think.
Yeah.
But I'll drink a Guinness too. But I have to be in the mood for it sometimes. I feel like I'm more inclined to it at a bar, but then again, I like enjoying my cocktails. I don't know. It's whatever the mood calls for.
Yeah.
On book-related news, Emily Henry's book comes out next week.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. We had thought about going to our local bookstore for, like, their little event. But unfortunately, it was, like, you had to purchase a certain ticket to get in. And we saw it way too late. So, yeah, we couldn't find any more tickets available for that, so I'll just have to pre-order it and wait for it. And they also didn't have the Abby Jimenez book. I'm not sure if I said that in the last one. I probably did. But I did finish The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia. That was such a good book. Unfortunately, I was wrong. I was like, it's giving like Spanish Bridgerton, and it kind of did, but it was very different. It wasn't really much like that. It's a very nice story. Valerie got what she got, and I am her number one hater. If she has no more haters in this world, then that means I am not in here. But I loathe her, and she got what she got, and I'm so happy about that. And so now I'm on to Ramon and Julieta. And I also have Happy Place by Emily Henry, because I've had that on my to be read shelf for the longest time, and I think it's time to get to it. But yeah, that's what's up with me with books aside from Circe. So let's get to the recap. Today we're doing the last few bits of Circe, chapters 23 to 27. So let's get into it. So starting off with chapter 22. So just like us, Circe also felt uneasy about Penelope and felt as if there was more to her being there than just by coincidence. She had asked her son and Telemachus about whose idea it was to be there, and they all said Penelope, but couldn't really explain why. So, but before that, she had asked Telemachus, he had asked Circe to tell him about his father, but the true and unfiltered stories, and so she did. Once Circe confronted Penelope, she found out that since Odysseus was Athena's prized mortal, now that he was gone, her eyes would shift to his next of kin, which was Telemachus. But she wanted some time with him before Athena came, so she asked Circe to let them stay through the winter at least, and she did. Chapter 23. The boys came back from fixing the sty, and Penelope asked Telegonus if he wanted to learn how to swim, and he eagerly said yes, leaving Telemachus and Circe alone. They eventually left to do yard work, where Telemachus asked if he could do more things around the home, improvements essentially. One day, Penelope asked Circe if she could watch her do her witchcraft, and during their conversation, Circe revealed that to be a witch, it doesn't have to be because you're a goddess or related to any of them. Being a witch really has to do with will. And then Hermes came to deliver a message to Telemachus from Athena and asked Circe to lower the spell for her to enter and offered an oath to not hurt Telegonus. Circe agreed to lower the spell. However, she must wait 3 days for her to do so. After Hermes left, Penelope got up and asked Telemachus if they could walk together. Chapter 24. Telegonus came up to Circe and asked what Hermes meant by Telemachus' inheritance, and he didn't think it would take 3 days to undo the spell. Circe only answered the last one and told him that her spells don't take that long to undo. She can undo it whenever she wants with her will. The trick with these gods is to never reveal everything you can do. Sometimes it's best to leave some of your tricks hidden. He then realized that Circe had given Telemachus and Penelope 3 days to talk and be with each other. Eventually, Penelope came back and thanked Circe for what she had done and given them. Circe left to go outside and sit next to Telemachus. They talked about Athena and what future she may have for him, but Circe had felt that whatever he and her had between them had now disappeared. Finally, the day came. All 4 of them met with Athena, and her first words were, "I told you that you would be sorry if you lived." But Circe rebuked that and said she did not. Athena then offered Telemachus glory and new empire in the west. She would be there to guide him and aid him whenever needed. Telemachus thanked Athena, but then told her he could not accept, as he wasn't looking to fight Trojans or build an empire. He sought different days. Athena was taken aback. She called him a fool and told him that no songs or stories would be told of him, and he'd die being no one. But he was okay with that and accepted his fate. In the end, that's all he wanted. Athena was furious, but offered the same to Telegonus. Circe told him not to answer. Athena told her she would not harm her son. She already had sworn an oath. Telegonus interrupted and asked his mother to speak. He said this is what he always wanted. He knew there were risks, but wished to take on this journey. And so Athena told him the ship would be ready this afternoon and left. Before Telegonus left, Telemachus gave him his father's bow. He was honored and thanked him. Once the ship came, Telegonus left. Circe waved goodbye and gave him her blessing. The following days, Penelope and Telemachus treated Circe like a delicate flower, ensuring she was always fine and cared for. Yet Circe had changed, and she said, "Father, I would like to speak with you." Chapter 25. Once he appeared, Circe told him she wanted her exile to be done. Helios denied her, but she told him that if he didn't, she would tell Zeus of what she did for Prometheus and the tiptoeing around treason he and his brothers would whisper about. Helios attempted to scare her with his power, but she fought back with the same. She had developed her power over the years, that he had no idea what she was capable of. Helios begrudgingly accepted and told her this was the last thing he would do for her, and to not dishonor him. Circe hit him back with, "I have a better idea. I will do as I please, and when you count your children, leave me out." His face turned rigid, but he agreed and left. Circe went back into her home and spoke with Penelope first. She gave her the option of staying on the island or going to Sparta. Penelope chose to stay on the island, so Circe showed her all of her potions and poisons she had to protect herself from any visitors. Finally, she spoke with Telemachus and offered him the same thing. He revealed that he had been angry with Circe because she thought he would leave with Athena after everything he had shown and told her. He didn't want to go to Sparta or stay on the island. Circe knew where he wanted to be, which was with her. Circe told him where she was going wasn't safe for mortals, but if he wished to join her, she wouldn't stop him, and they would leave at dawn. And so they left, heading straight to Scylla first. Circe brought the spear with her to kill Scylla once and for all. Killing Scylla was tough, but she achieved it, and during the whole process, also lost the spear. And ended up going back to Trigon. Trigon? What was it? Is it Trigon? I think it is. I know it's Trigon, but I think there's an R. So maybe Trigon?
I'm going to go with Trigon.
Yeah. Trigon. Once they landed, Circe told Telemachus that she was responsible for how Scylla ended up. Telemachus asked her to tell him more stories. Circe then closed the gap between them, and it's insinuated that they kissed. Chapter 26. For the next 3 days, they fished, and Circe would tell him her story. At the end, she asked him what he thought, and told him that gods are ugly creatures. Yet he responded with, "We are not our blood. A witch once told me that." Eventually, they went back to the island. Penelope greeted them with open arms. No visitor had come by, and she had fared well. There was one last thing Circe had to do. She wanted to cast a spell, and Telemachus said he'd go with her, but she kissed him and left him there. Chapter 27. I do want to circle back to the spell because I wasn't quite sure of it, and I want to see if maybe you understood it, but we'll touch that later. Chapter 27. Telemachus and Circe continued to travel and be together. They ended up having 2 daughters. They lived on the island when the children were young and visited often. Penelope had learned to be a witch, and nymphs came back to the island as well. Circe also looked older, with her and Telemachus' faces marked with lines of their years. It ends with Circe saying, "All my life I have been moving forward, and now I am here. I have a mortal's voice. Let me have the rest. I left the brimming bowl to my lips and drink." And that's how Circe ends, which I'm assuming this means that she created a spell to turn into a mortal.
Yeah, so it was basically the same thing she did to Glaukos. or in Skyla, basically, that like it turns you into your true self. She created the same thing. She went back to what was her island? Not her island, but back to her home, where she got the original flowers to turn Glaucus into a god.
So that's why she left, because that
She
was the
le-
last spell that she needed to cast, right?
What do you mean the last? Well, yeah, it was her last spell because she knew she was gonna try to turn into a mortal.
Oh, okay.
Like after everything she learned, that's why she had to go to Skyla and all that to like, I guess burn down her bridges.
Yeah.
Like that's the last thing she needed to do. So then she went to go get the flowers, make that spell, and hopefully turned herself into a mortal, right? Because that's what she thinks her true self is. And after all this growth and all of that, she believed that's what she is. So she was going to do the spell to hopefully turn into a mortal. She took it, and she did end up being that. But
Yeah?
she saw the vision
Interesting.
first
Oh.
before deciding whether to drink it or not.
When did she see the vision? Is this separate from like the book, or was this in the book and I just missed
No,
it?
that's what you were reading right now. The vision where she saw herself with the 2 kids and all that. That was a vision.
That whole chapter was just a vision?
Yeah, that was a whole vision
Oops.
of the future. She wanted to see if she was going to be okay with what she wanted to happen with Telemachus and all
That's
that.
why her
So she-
face has green
Yeah,
lines. And
so
everything.
she
Okay.
did the vision and then saw she was going to be okay, so she took it and she turned into a mortal. And then they basically told you how her life was going to go after that. So they kind of closed it on her, but then also was like, hey, here's what happens later. So you don't have to like leave on a cliffhanger or whatever.
I didn't understand that. Okay. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was wrong about Penelope trying to make something.
I'm sorry, Penelope.
But I mean, she did also lie. So she didn't go there just because. So we were right about that. And she was also like kind of seeking vengeance, but like in her own way. Like it's not straight up wanting to kill somebody. It was like, I might as well use you.
Yeah.
Right. The whole Telemachus and Circe ending up together, and then Penelope and Telegonus ending up together.
Wait, Penelope and Telegonus?
Well, see, that's the thing. They ended up together alone on the island, right?
No, Telegonus left with Athena.
Oh, that's right. But then I looked it up, and I was like, so what happens to all of them, right? Like what happens to Penelope, whatever. Apparently, Telegonus ends up with Penelope. That's why I was like, oh.
This is such a weird family dynamic.
Yeah, so Telegonus ends up with Penelope. If I'm correct, if what I saw was correct, Telegonus ends up with Penelope, and then Telemachus ends up with Circe.
They're an odd pairing, but I feel like it's a good odd pairing. Like he balances Circe out so well.
To me, that kind of was just quick. Like I didn't see where that kind of was like built.
Oh, so now you want romance?
No. Like I also like, I don't know if it was odd to me because I didn't know that, like from other stories in the past or whatever. So I didn't know that. So for that to just happen and then it was like out of nowhere, I was like, oh, so they're together, I guess.
It took me a while
then-
to understand that they had something going on.
Yeah.
I had kind of felt it because of how much Telemachus?
That's how I say it. I don't know.
Tel kept on going up to Circe, and like their conversations and the way he sought her, or even talked about, oh yeah, things that need to be fixed around the place. I don't know. I it kind of felt like there was something else.
I
To
always
me.
saw it as stepson talking to stepmom type of thing, like
But
because they were
yeah.
all technically the same thing, right? Telemachus was kind of like a stepson to Cersei, and then Telegonus was a stepson to Penelope.
Yeah, but Penelope and Telegonus, I never seen that. I did not see that coming. But Telemachus and Cersei, your Telemachus and Cersei. I'm gonna just say Telemachus just because I've been saying it the whole time, but whatever. I kind of understood it as that, and then later on when it was confirmed that they ended up together, I was like, okay, let me go back and read like some parts where I was like kind of iffy on. I'm like, okay, it made sense, but yeah, it seemed a little bit odd, but then again, it was getting close to the end of the book, so
Yeah.
it made sense. I didn't and did expect Telegonus to go with Athena.
Yeah, no, that was. I didn't understand that.
I just don't understand Athena and her stupid little gripe
Yeah.
over him. So I guess Athena didn't want Telegonus to live because he killed Odysseus, her prize mortal, essentially. That's why she wanted Odysseus, Telegonus to die at a young age.
Even
Okay.
but like also before killing Odysseus, like that was the whole plan, getting rid of him. So I guess after he killed him, it was like, all right, now what? Didn't really want anything to do with him. They
I'm just
wanted
surprised
a
that
son.
Athena still thought Cersei would be mad at Telegonus for killing Odysseus. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I guess if that's how the gods are, but
Yeah.
Cersei is just, she built different.
Well, like she said, she's really a mortal living in a god's world.
Yeah, she really is that way, huh?
Yeah. That's why she always considered herself
One of
just a
them.
mortal, and just like, hey, just like that's why she kind of was okay with being exiled, but then she wanted to be unexiled just to go get the flowers. But,
Yeah, I thought we'll get into it later with the Bruise review, more a little bit of my thoughts on her exile, but I was surprised that she stood up to her dad, but I'm like, my favorite line from the whole book, and I included it because it was my favorite, but it's when she told her father, I have a better idea. I will do as I please, and when you count your children, leave me out. Like, that is the most badass line she could tell.
yeah,
Like, just, no, I'll do whatever I want, and just leave me out of your children. I am done.
yeah, because she knew she wasn't gonna. Like her goal was to become mortal, so she's like, I'm not even gonna need anything else. So
You know, she saw that she was going to live a whole life of just loneliness, essentially. I was like, no, that's not what I want.
for me, like that final section of chapters wasn't really too. Like there wasn't anything unexpected. There wasn't really any like curveballs or anything like that, but it also gave me new information that I didn't know. You know, like that whole Cersei and Telemachus thing. I had no idea.
I liked that she went back to kill Skyla. It's kind of like facing your past, and it's like,
But I also
starting
didn't
something
understand
new.
the need to, like, for her to kill her. Like, what? Like,
I
she
mean-
never wanted to commit. Like, she never wanted to kill her.
but she would keep on killing mortals,
No, that's true. Yeah.
and she didn't want that.
Yeah.
Every time she heard that Skyla killed more mortals, she felt guilty because she's responsible for creating Skyla
Yeah.
into the monster she is. And so in order to kind of move past or face, you know, her past and what she did,
hmm
she had to kill her because there's no way of turning her back.
Yeah.
What's done was done.
And then she was turned into stone.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Because I thought,
Wasn't
so
it?
does that mean Odysseus turned into stone? Because they both got killed by the spear. No?
Yeah. Well,
Or did she give her a potion?
No,
And
it
she
had
lost
been
the
through the
spear.
spear. I thought it was with the spear.
I don't know. Either way, I don't know how she turned into stone.
I like the last little set of chapters. Like, I finished the book and I felt content.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, that was a good read. Like, I didn't feel like I needed more. I didn't feel like there was anything left out. I got what I needed from the story. And I was like, nice.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll get into it when I do the Bruise review, but...
Do we just get into it?
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into the Bruise review numero 3 for Cersei. All right. Let's start off with... let me go back. Okay. Book characters. What was your rating on book characters?
I just give that a 5 because we can't... I mean, in my head, like, you can't really...
Yes and no. Yes, the characters are already there, but it also matters how Madeline presents them. My bad. It also matters how Madeline Miller presents the characters as well. And I feel like I feel like all the characters were well written. Like, she didn't leave, like, and anytime she introduced someone else, she gave you enough information to be like, oh, that's who they are. Okay, I can move on.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, who the heck are they? Like, anyone who was important, she gave enough information for that you're like, okay, I'm going to retain it. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like how she wrote Cersei, because Cersei herself, she's such a complex character. We see her naivete, her, we see her change. I cannot say the word for the life of me, but we see her change as she goes through life. Like, her exile was so necessary for her growth and becoming the badass witch that she is. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Madeline Miller wrote her so well, because even though sometimes I was frustrated with Cersei, I understood her and slowly came to like love and enjoy her as a person as well. She's such a strong woman and very admirable in so many ways. And I feel like Madeline was able to show that part of Cersei very well. Like, had she not been very well developed throughout the stories and in this book, maybe I would have not cared for Cersei that much.
Yeah. And well, you would hope that's the one character that she would like go 100% in for, considering the book was through her point of view.
Yeah.
You know, we needed all of that info. But like I said, like, to me it was a 5 just because the info is already out there.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, as long as she got the info right and introduced the character to you well, to me it was okay.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's what she did. So
I also put a 5 out of 5.
nice. Okay.
For relatability, I feel like this is the grayness area. I gave it a 4 out of 5.
You give it a 4?
Yeah.
Okay, why? Explain.
So, in a way, yes. Like, I think this is why all Greek mythology stories are just so popular. They have some form of relatability that appeals to many. There are lessons to be learned from each one, and Cersei is no exception as well. I don't know if I can like fully, like, I don't think there were so many points in this book where I was like, yes, I am relating to this 100%. No, there are some points where I did, some points where I'm like, but that's why I gave it like a 4 out of 5. Like, in my perspective, not it like the book didn't call out to me or my heart. Like, it wasn't like that. That's why it's relatable, but it's not so relatable that it touched my heart so much. It's relatable enough to where I'm like, yeah, I can see parts that I can take away from this book for myself, but not fully. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had given it a 1,
Oh.
but now I guess
Oh.
I'll bump it up to a 2. But but I feel a 1, just because I was
Okay.
like, it was a good read. I liked the stories and all that. It's just I didn't find anything to like. Oh yeah, that's so me. Like I don't know. I didn't.
I think what stuck out the most to me that I found relatable was just Cersei's growth of being so naive to not being a naive child anymore.
Yeah.
And really sticking up for herself and fending for herself, because there's no one who's going to defend her or do more for her than herself. And I thought I was like, yeah, that hits home.
Yeah.
But it's not so much where I'm like, everyone, please, when you read this, you see Alexa. No.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah.
It's like a character trait.
For me, what I enjoy the most is just a very strong woman. And I guess that's why for me it resonates a little bit more than maybe for you, because I see parts that I could take away.
Yeah.
Per se.
Yeah,
so that's why I give it a 4, not like a 5, but like a nice 4.
Yeah, that's why I'm like I could bump it to a 2. Like I guess that's what it was in my head. Like I'll bump it to a 2 because I could see how it could relate to someone else.
Yeah.
But like if it's relatability to me, I would do it the 1. But I guess it's not to us individually. I guess it like I could do it as like a 2 because it could relate to somebody else. So
Okay. Experience less enjoyment. I gave it a 4 out of 5 for this one as well.
I gave that one a 3.
I was also thinking of I was debating between a 3 or a 4. And I was like 3.5. I was like, just whatever, let me just give it a 4. It was Friday, okay?
Yeah.
I was feeling good. But for me, it was an enjoyable read. I finished the book and I was content with what I read. I thought it was like a lovely experience to go through and see these stories through Cersei's eyes. And although there were some points that I did find were a little bit slow, I think overall it was an easy read to get through.
Yeah.
Like I found this easy. I was like, even though there were slow moments, it had a easy pace, like tempo. I don't know. I was like, okay, I can get to the next. It wasn't something where like A Court of Thorns and Roses where I'm like, dude, I need to put this down for a bit. Like, no, it was slow, but I was like, okay, I can get through this.
Okay.
I don't know how to describe it, because with A Court of Thorns and Roses, there were so many slow parts where I just felt like the same thing was happening. And with Cersei, even though that's kind of the same, I think it was more so of her journey that I was enjoying, because it's not just one continuous story, because what we've learned is there are different stories within this one story of Cersei. So that's how I felt for it.
I think for me, that's what I felt like at the beginning. So I gave it a 3. Just because I was enjoying it. I was, looking forward to it. But then there was at some points where I was like, this is me genuinely saying it. I don't know what it was, but it was just like, there was part of me where I was like, I kind of just want to get this done. It's like, I don't know, I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting. I guess is what I would say.
I think I know.
What?
I think you expected more action. Because I feel those are typically the books and genres that you'd gravitate towards. Plus, with this being Greek mythology, and you already have that in mind, that there's so many adventures, fights, and stuff of that nature, that I felt like maybe that's what you were waiting for. A big fight or something to
like maybe one of the big fights, but then through her point of view or something.
I think maybe that's what it was. I don't know. I don't want to put words into your mouth, but maybe that's what it was.
That's good, because I have no idea. Like, it's just, I would go into it, like at first, right? The first 2 sets of... What?
No, sorry. I have a thought, and I think I may be able to explain why maybe this kind of potentially quote unquote dragged for you, but that's part. I want to explain that more in storyline.
Okay.
Because I think I know why.
Because like the first two sets of chapters, right? It was like setting everything up. We were hoping. Well, I'm gonna say me. I don't want to speak for you. I was hoping it wouldn't get to the Odyssey right away, and then when it got to it, it kind of like brushed it, and I was like, okay, that's good, whatever. But like I said, it was sometimes I would get done with that section of chapters and it would be like,
so what happened?
no, because I kind of like I knew, right? But it was like also like all right, now just one more set of chapters and then we can get rid of this or something like that. Like I just want to, like I'm not trying to like bash the book or anything, or like I think it was great. I thought it was a good read. But I think it's like one of those books where I feel like I could have maybe gotten through that quicker and enjoyed it more rather than have it drag out for the month.
Okay, yeah.
Just because I felt like it's like, all right, let me get this done. And it's like, we would get done through the set of chapters and we'd be like, dang, I have to stop there. And then it's another week where I have to go through these other chapters and then just to end up, I guess, quote unquote, unsatisfied. And that's what kind of like is bringing me down to a 3, because the book itself is great. But it's just the experience I had reading it is what's bringing it down to a 3. It's just like, I don't know, the content within the book is what wasn't grasping me.
No, and I agree. I completely agree. Like, I don't mean like no to shut down your feelings. I mean like I get it.
Yeah. It's like a no, yeah. Like no, yeah, you're right.
Exactly. Because I'm and maybe this is where I think I might have given it a too high of a rating. I even feel like my overall score is just a little too high for how I feel. Because it is a good book, but I agree. I think that's what it was. I feel like I would have enjoyed just going through this book all in one read rather than having it as sets.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why I was so supplementing so much more of other books in between this read, because you
needed something else.
I needed something else. And again, this is in no way to bash the book, because it's a good book. It's written well. It's just different. And I think that's what it comes to. It's very different in compared to what other things, because usually in a book there's a climax of something that's happening and it's like the turning point for everything else within the story. You're building up to this one main goal in the story, or not even goal, but just the thing that will change it all. But there's not really that moment in here. And again, I'll get to that in the storyline, because I think I know what it is. I just don't want to talk about it right now.
Yeah.
But I was in between a 3 and a 4. And now giving it a 4, I kind of regret it a little bit, because truly I do think I would bring it down to a 3, because you explained it so well. It would have been just good in a one sit down, not for kind of like in sets for the whole month.
like a month for the book is a lot, because that, like, for me, like this is also not a book that I would do in one sitting, because it would be too much for me. Like, I feel like I could get through it, but at the same time I'd feel like my brain would be like, dude, what did we just like, because I feel like it's a lot of, I don't want to make it sound like I'm bashing, but it's at points it's a lot of like nothing to me. Like, it feels that way already, because like I said, we went the whole month with it, so it was kind of like, all right, let me read through this, and then at the end I'd feel like I didn't really get anything. Like, I understood it, I didn't get anything from it.
You didn't see where it was going. Like, you didn't see, like, I guess the plot.
No, because I knew I guess this is also going into what you were saying. Like, we'll talk about it later, but I guess
here,
like,
let's
right.
let's try to get there, because
Okay.
I think we can probably get into it a little bit better. But I think even though my overall score like at the very end is a little bit higher, I do think I want to modify it. So
Yeah.
like, and give what I think the overall score is, kind of deviating, unfortunately, from what we usually do. But just for this, I do want to. So, okay, writing style. I gave it a 5 out of 5.
Okay. I give it a 4.
Okay. And here's why I gave it a 5. Because usually, and I've said this throughout the podcast for Cersei, is that in my head I've always seen Greek mythology as being a tough read sometimes, because there's so many metaphors that could be thought of, like, to explain something in like different ways. And so I thought that's what we were going to get with this, and I'm glad that we didn't. So like, Miller uses metaphors from time to time, but it's in an understandable way. And although there are some parts where I couldn't exactly decipher it on the spot, after taking the time to read it through, you can essentially deduce what's going to happen or what will happen.
Yeah.
And so that's what because with some Greek mythology ones, when we had to read them for class, you read them, you're like, what in the world did I read? Just tell me, did you guys cross the ocean, or are you just going down the stairs? I just need to know.
Yeah.
And so that's why I liked how she wrote. And it was, like I said, for me, it was somewhat easy. It was a fairly easy read. And although there were some times where it got a little bit difficult to fully decipher it, I still gave it a 5.
I gave it a 4, basically kind of for the same reason. It's like, I like the way it was written. It's a really good read, fast read, easy read. But there was, like you said, there was those times where you were like, I don't think it was like difficult to decipher. It was more so, I felt like everything, like something got like jumbled up or whatever. Like sometimes I would, finish a page, turn the page, start reading that. I'm like, wait, what? When this happened? And I'd have to go back to the other page, and I'd reread again, and I still wouldn't be like, wait, what? And I would reread it again, and I'm like, okay, sure. And I would go back to that page, and there was a couple of times where I had to do that, and I was like, because I'm reading it, I'm like, wait, like I'm not skipping over anything. Like, when did I miss that? And I would go back and eventually kind of, I guess, find it. I wouldn't really feel clear on it.
Okay.
But I would eventually like understand it further down the chapter, or something like that. But that's why I gave it a 4, because while it's easy, it's whatever, there's just some moments, and I'm not saying there's a lot. There may be 3, 4 in the whole entire book where I was really like, I was like, wait, and I just had to go back like a page or two. It's not like where I was like, wait, when did this happen? And I had to go back chapters or stuff like that. It was just something quick, the way something was phrased or something like that. But other than that, it was, I felt like it was pretty good. You could tell you were in Cersei's point of view. And
yes.
I feel like that was the main point, right? And I felt like that is what I was looking for. That stuck the whole time. Like, I didn't want to see it deviate into something else or anything like that. So I'm glad she stuck with that, and that worked well. Again, it would have been a 5 out of 5 had I not have to been like, wait, what?
No, yeah, I get that, and I understand. Yeah. So finally, storyline. And here, this is what I think is the reason as to why you have been feeling this way, and so have I. Regardless, though, I gave it a 5 out of 5. Even though it's not exactly my favorite, I still think the storyline is good for what this is. So, in truth, I don't really think there's a storyline to Cersei. This book is almost as if it were a biography of her life.
Yep.
That's what I see it as.
Yep.
And I feel like that's what's so different, is because the story essentially starts with her birth and goes all the way to her turning into immortal and eventually her death, And it's being told in short little stories that doesn't really focus on like one thing. Maybe if we have to say like the turning point or like the biggest event technically is Odysseus, in the aftermath of it. But I think Madeline organized all these little stories so well that it was easy to follow through. I don't feel like we're jumping back and forth.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that. Like I didn't, like you said, you're not like at some point in the book, you're like, wait, when was this? And you have to go all the way back.
Yeah.
No, I felt like everything moved seamlessly. But I think the reason why it's not like why at least like the experience and enjoyment wasn't like a 5 or maybe not even a 4 either is because it's more of a biography. You're not really getting something. It like you said, sometimes it felt like nothing, because it's not really an ultimate journey or an adventure of sorts. It's just her life and that's it. And her life really isn't filled with so much adventure or fights in that sort of way, you know? So that's why I think it's formatted more of a biography, as a biography, in a way.
Yeah. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Just because, like, yeah, there was no actual, like, I guess, end goal. But I knew at the end of the day, it was a story of her life through her view, right? Her taking us through her whole life with her. And so at the end of the book, I knew there was going to be like some kind of, not goal, not climax, not like whatever. It's like kind of like a resolution. Like you said, it felt like a biography, and I kind of felt that way from the beginning. But I also knew it was like, okay, this is going to be her journey through her life, but not just her journey through her life. It's a journey through the events that make up who she is.
Yes.
Like, I don't know how to explain it without saying it, like, through her life. Like, yeah, we went through her life, but it's also like we went
through every
into
major
her life. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like I knew everything we were gonna read was gonna end up being something about her, right? Like, I guess we were collecting the traits that made her up.
Yeah.
And then at the end, we were gonna get that resolution where it's like, because you could tell from the beginning, it was like she wasn't comfortable being who she was at that time, right? And who she was around. So it's like, okay, so at the end, there has to be some kind of resolution where she's ends up being where she wants to be.
Exactly.
So I was like, okay, we'll get through this stuff, and we'll get all her traits together, and at the end, we'll see that resolution, which ended up being her growing, like not just aging, but like growing as a person, realizing what she's done and all that stuff, going back to her past, facing all that, and then turning into the mortal that she's always wanted to be. But this is where I wanted to get into, like previously, that's kind of what took the, I guess, enjoyment or experience out of it for me, where it was like, I feel like if I went through this in a week, I probably would have been more satisfied with it, because I think in the back of my head, I always knew it was like some kind of like biography type of way, like how you explained it. The back of my head kind of knew that. It's like, hey, by the way, there's going to be no end result to this. Like it was like, I was telling myself that, but I still wanted to expect something from it. And after I read every section of the chapter, it was like, I don't see this going anywhere. And my head was like, dude, it's not going to go anywhere. But then the reader in me, the type of reader that I am in me, wanted something else.
No, I agree.
And like just the type of things that I enjoy, and like you said, it having to do with Greek mythology, that reader side of me was excited. And then after every chapter where I was like, okay, this is not going that way. This is not going that way. This is not going that way. And then at the end of the last final chapters, it was like, yeah, this didn't end up going that way. And it was like, it's like, it's still not taken away from what it was. Mm-hmm. It was still a great read, just not what I was
expecting.
Expecting, and also just not looking for, I guess.
No, and it makes sense because I guess that's why for me, even with my overall score being a little bit higher than what I think it should be, my score will always be a little bit higher than yours for this one, only because there are some times where I don't really expect like the action for there to be. So I was content with this being just like the story of Cersei's life.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I did expect like some big moment to occur, because I think that's how the blurb kind of made it out to be. However, as we were reading the book, like you said, it's like, oh, it seems a little bit more like a biography. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a certain point where in my head just kind of switched that idea out that something big was going to happen. And I started to just enjoy the book more for it just being about Cersei's life in a way. So, but again, it's like I don't always look for some big moment to happen. And I guess with always expecting Greek mythology to have something big and, you know, a fight or something, it's kind of nice to see that this was not going to happen that way. Because this is just her life. In the end, she didn't... It's almost like Telemachus, where he didn't want to fight Trojans or build empires. He wanted to be a nobody. He wanted to just have his life. Yeah. And in the end, that's exactly what Cersei wanted too. She just wanted her life. And that, like, nothing more than to, like, she didn't want to be immortal. She truly just wanted to be immortal and live amongst them. Yeah. Because she didn't understand them. So, yeah. I don't know.
Like, I feel like we have the same reasoning behind her scores, but then the score ends up different because
we value the book a little bit differently.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
for the same reasons, but in a different way.
Yeah. My overall score ends up being 4.6 out of 5, which if I'd have to like rate this without like a scoring system keeping track of mine, I think it'd be a 4 out of 5, just because it's not fully like something that just I would rave about, but it is a book I recommend. Yeah. If you want to learn about Cersei and not have to dig around the metaphors and everything about in other ways, this is a good read. Read it. Yeah. This will give you what you need to know about her, and in such a digestible way. Yeah. So that's my score, and even my personal score.
Yours was a
4.6 out of 5 4.6, with the rating system that we have, and then, but if I had to tweak it, I'd say a 4 out of 5.
I think so too. Like my official one is a 3.6, but if I had to just do a random one, like not random, but just 1 through 5 without our system, it would be a 4 as well, which makes sense. 3.6 rounded up, it's a 4. Just because the same reason, like if you want to know more about Cersei,
this is the best way to
get into that. I guess into mythology as well. You could also just, because it makes it, like honestly, you said, more just digestible, and it introduces these characters in such a way where you're like, I know exactly who that is. Then it has the character glossary in the back.
Oh yeah.
But it's also like, and like you said, I'd also recommend it, but I recommend you getting through it relatively quickly. Yeah. I don't think this is one you can drag out, like have a weekend to do it, or even just a week.
I feel like this is a weekend to week book. Yeah. Because if let's say you start this like at the beginning of the month, and then you put it down, let's say you probably get like 2/4 of the way, or like halfway. You put it down, you forget about it for 2 weeks, and then you try to pick it back up. It's going to be difficult to get back into it.
Yeah.
Sure, you can pick up right up and not really have to worry about it, but it's better if you do it kind of within the weekend to week span.
Yeah.
Like that's the sweet spot for this one.
Yeah. Just because I also think it's probably not one you can just sit and read through like in one sitting. I think. I don't know. For me, it would just be too much.
For us, for the kind of readers that we are, no.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, if you're good with taking a whole bunch of information
All at
and
once.
then a slow but yet interesting story, go for it. That's one sitting. But I'd recommend a couple of days, a few days. Like I said, it's still a good read. Not trying to bash on it at all. Like, we still think it's a 4 out of 5. And then that's just to us, you know.
Yeah.
Read it yourself. Make
As
your own
always.
judgment. Yeah, as always.
As always, please.
Make your own judgment. You might think it's a 5 out of 5 completely all the way. You might think it's a 1 out of 5 completely out of the way. Just
There's so many different kind of readers that there's, like, for us, it's crazy how, like, even our own personal ratings would be a 4 out of 5.
but for completely, like,
Yes.
it's like
Because
that's what's crazy. It's
the-
the same reasons, but we interpret it in a different way.
Yeah, and the thing is just that this book has its value, but not as, like, you know, this epic read because there's so much action and bromance. It's truly just viewing the life of a mortal in a way.
Yeah.
And it's a nice it's a nice story of Cersei and her life. And if you don't know about Cersei, this is the best way to get into it. Or if you just want to get into Greek mythology, this is like a nice way to kind of dip your toes into the waters and really get that understanding, especially with how many interactions she has with different gods. You're going to get that. Plus, you get the story of the Titans literally from the get-go.
Yeah.
So, it's a good read. I liked it. Would I reread this again personally? I don't think so. But I'm going to keep it in my bookshelf because it's nice. And I'd recommend it to anyone who, like, be into Greek mythology or
I don't
want to
think
learn about it.
it's a reread, like, type of book. Like, it's like you read it once, you got all that info. Now you have that information and you can build from that.
Yep.
That's what that kind of book is. I don't think it's like, even if you enjoy it 100%, I don't think you would need to reread it. I think I feel like you'd get that info into your head and that's pretty much all you get from it. I wouldn't see how you could. I mean, that's just me.
I feel like there may be a reader who finds this book like very enjoyable to reread.
Yeah.
Like in my case, there are some romance stories or like even like I call them rom-coms sometimes because that's how it feels like. But like these books that I would reread again that I know you wouldn't. Like you'd read it once and be like, okay. But it's because we're different kinds of readers. But there may be someone out there who really just enjoys a slow, easy pace. Maybe this is like their comfort read.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't reread it. But I enjoyed the book. Like I said, I finished the book, and I felt content with it regardless. I got out of the story of what I needed to get, and I was like, okay, it's nice. But I'm ready for the next one.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of, I guess it's a good transition.
Yeah.
So for the month of May, again, we'll be reading Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. And I am so stoked for this. We're getting into a heist, my dudes.
Mm-hmm.
Get ready. I'm so stoked. I've had this book for so long, all thanks to R.F. Kuang, who I saw originally recommended it, and I bought it, and it's been sitting in there for about 2 years, I think. Oops. That and so many other books. But I feel like this is a nice read that you are going to enjoy a lot.
Yeah.
Hopefully. We'll see.
Hopefully. Yeah.
I don't really think there's any romance in this. I truly do not think, because R.F. Kuang from the books, I've only read one, But even I think Babel doesn't even have romance in it, because I've read the Poppy War from R.F. Kuang, and there was none. It was just completely brutal. Such a good story. So from what I've read from the blurb, I cannot sniff out any romance. So I feel like the coast is clear for you.
Well,
I think you're gonna get out what you're gonna
I thought
get.
about a bunch of other blurbs, and then
Well, that's the thing. I knew deep down there was gonna be something. I feel like even for Sanctuary of the Shadow, I knew there was gonna be some sort of romance in it, but I didn't. I thought you also understood it from that, and then when you told me you didn't, I was like, oop. Fourth Wing, I did know there was going to be some romance. I just didn't know the extent. I didn't know there was going to be almost like a three, like a triangle-ish per se, and then turned not, because fuck Dane. But, Cersei was your nice little break from it. I still had to get my little dose of romance, which is why I read The Beautiful Ones. But, it's so... If you like romance and you like Bridgerton, you're gonna like The Beautiful Ones. Highly recommend it. Please do. It's such a nice, lovely read. But yeah, the chapters that we'll be reading for next week for Portrait of a Thief, again, try to buy from a local bookstore if you can, because I did find one at our local bookstore, so maybe you can still too. But if you can't, understandable. You could also try and borrow it from your library or even from the Libby app if it is still available, or, just an ebook. But the chapters that we'll be reading are chapters 1 through 15. And yeah, we're already getting into May so soon.
Yeah, it goes by fast.
Yeah, it does, huh?
It goes by way too fast. And I feel like now that we're reading every month too, it's the same thing, because we're also just basing it off of chapters.
True.
It's like once we're halfway through a book, it's like, dang, we're halfway through the month.
Mm-hmm. And I believe Portrait of a Thief it's not a big book. It's I think it's like a nice medium-sized book, because it's not small like Cersei. It's not big like Fourth Wing.
Yeah.
It has about, if I remember, 369 pages. At least my copy is that long. And there's like 69 chapters, odd number. So there's a lot of chapters, but as I was telling you, there's so many that are short.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's not going to be like one where we're like, oh no, we got to read. No, I think it'll be good. So, but we'll see. But yeah, I think that's it for this week, this episode.
Yeah.
And for Cersei. It was a good book. Give it a try. If you want to get into Greek mythology, try it out.
Yeah.
And see what you think of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all from us.
See you next week.
Yeah. For the month of May. Adios.
See ya.